sa program, hinatid po namin ng magandang balita. A Filipino-American has been nominated to be Supreme Court Chief Justice here in California. And Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger says she is a living example of the American dream. Ano nga bang American dream? You know, we all have our own ideas of the American dream. And here on the show, we try to get you to achieve that.
This American Dream segment is brought to you by Aquino & Lowe Law Firm, answering your immigration questions.
Attorney Richard Lowe of Aquino & Lowe Law Office, hello and welcome to KAbabayan, LA. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Attorney Richard, today we're going to be talking about motion to reopen. What is that about?
Well, oftentimes what happens when people first come to the United States, they fall prey to people that are called like paralegals in the legal community that aren't really attorneys, and they end up having applications filed for them, sometimes asylum applications that turn into removal orders eventually.
Oh.
And it could be that sometimes these people don't even know that they have a removal order, or that they find themselves with a removal order after having gone to court and not having been able to do anything in court.
Okay, let's backtrack a little bit, of course. What is a removal? Let's just explain that first.
Well, for example, if somebody had filed an asylum application and it was denied, it would go to an immigration judge, and that judge would have to decide whether you would be able to stay in the United States based on that asylum application or something else, or whether you would have to go back to your native country, and that's what they call a removal order. Is
removal order synonymous with deportation?
It is. Deportation was prior to the amendments in 1996. It's now called removal orders. It used to be called deportation orders.
Okay, and when you're, chances are when people find themselves faced with that situation that they're having to be removed from the States or deported to go back to the Philippines, they feel like there's no hope anymore. But you're saying now is there is some relief available?
Yes, there is. At times, depending upon the situation, we can try to go back and reopen those old cases so that that person can then become a permanent resident through whatever means they have available to them now.
Okay, motion to reopen. What are the requirements in order for us to be able to do that?
Well, first and foremost, the person has to have the ability to become a permanent resident now. So what often happens is that somebody first, when they were removal proceedings, they were by themselves, and then 5, 6 years later, they're now married to a U.S. citizen, and that citizen can petition for them to stay in the United States. So at that point, we would be trying to first get the petition approved, and then trying to go back and reopen the matter so that they could become a permanent resident.
Okay, and while you're doing that, the person is able to stay in the United States, yeah?
Well, the person won't be able to stay in the United States until we are actually able to reopen the case. And that's very important to understand, that as soon as there's a removal order, the government can try to remove you at any time. And it's important that you talk to an attorney and know what your rights are and what you can do before you get yourself in that situation.
How long does it take for a case to be reopened?
Well, it depends on the case. If you did not appear in court, reopening may take a little bit longer, perhaps 6 months or so, depending upon your case. And if you did appear in court, then most likely we would have to ask the government to join in on a joint motion to reopen. And right now we have a new chief counsel in the Los Angeles area. He's from San Francisco, and he's been running a very efficient office. And he has been responding to our requests for joint motions to reopen within about a week.
Okay. And in your experience, attorney, I know you help a lot of our kababayans out there. Are Filipinos usually able to succeed in these kinds of cases?
Yes, we've had success reopening cases. Now, of course, every case is individual and specific, and all the facts are different for each case. But we have been able to open a number of cases based on either reopening because they never appeared at their court case and never knew that there was a court case, or because we've gotten the chief counsel to agree to enter into a joint motion to reopen so that the person can now become a permanent resident.
And that is why we're happy that you guys at Aquino & Lowe Law Office give free office consultation, and we get to talk to you. We don't just get to talk to a paralegal, correct?
That's absolutely correct, and it's so important, especially if you have a removal order, that you speak to an attorney. Most likely you had a removal order because you spoke to a paralegal. It's time to really get an attorney.
Thank you so much for those reminders, and thank you for explaining those terms to us today on the show. More power to you, Attorney Richard Lowe.
Thank you.
Pagbabalik naman po ng KAbabayan LA, nako, get ready to eat a food pairing, food and wine pairing, Filipino dishes plus different kinds of wine. This I'm interested to talk about, of course, and we're going to be discussing that when we return. Don't go away.